Welcome back to some professional StarCraft to a best-of-3 from ESL Korea. Let me introduce, in the top left, the final boss. It's Dark. One of the most storied, accomplished, and casually confident Zerg players in the world. Yeah, starting at 0-0, but it feels like he's one game away from winning at all times. Facing off with some recent success and continuing his upward trend, we have GuMiho, one of the few, the proud, and the bold Mech Terrans. And in fact, lately in this matchup has been favoring the style. And I look forward to learning something from him. I've personally been enjoying Mech lately. It has some key weaknesses with especially map control, the ability to assert itself out there, kind of like how Medivacs and Hellion Banshee in the early game can do so. But we'll see. With Dark just starts with a pool first. The pool first against Terran, not intended to win the game outright, especially when you can clearly see he's getting an expansion behind. But just something to keep his opponent busy. One, it helps hard counter any sort of early game shenanigans. And two, it allows you to get a roach for him. I wasn't sure this is the direction we were going. The expansion is mostly just there as a placeholder here. That is 15 drones, adding a 16th. But overall, this is aggression. And GuMiho has not gone for an SCV scout. Without the SCV scout, he's not going to be able to see the hatchery time. He's going to see the Zerglings. But I didn't realize without the SCV scout, now the Zerglings have a real chance of canceling the command center. The Reaper was spotted by the Overlord, and GuMiho going to be in a very awkward position to kick things off here. The Marine comes out. There wasn't enough for a reactor. He's just getting a second Marine, pulls the SCV. He's going to delay the command center. Reaper on its way back home. All this time wasted. So the Zerglings of Dark, when at first it looked like, oh, beautiful micro on the SCVs there. Does lose one Marine, but here's the problem. A Reaper had to come back home, and guess what's following this up? Immediately roaches. And right now, GuMiho going to be hard-pressed to defend. The command center needs to finish. If the command center's finished, you can lift it and fight on the high ground. And behind this, Dark doesn't have that much gas. So a single Ravager is going to be the extent of it. GuMiho finds himself in a bit of an awkward spot, but I don't think you can be too unhappy. He only lost one SCV and one Marine. The roaches are spotted. Orbital in production. SCV abandoned. Reaper onto the high ground. The bunker may not finish, but the grenade bounces him back. Beautiful start. Handling it so far with the grenade bounce. Though the Reaper didn't need to die there. A little sloppy out of GuMiho. A good start, but loses a Reaper and a Marine. And that makes this a lot harder. That was about half his DPS there. Now the SCVs. Sure, they'll try to repair, but the Roaches and Ravagers just walk on by. SCVs doing their best so far. Great micro from GuMiho. Dodging into the bunker. Look at the worker count. Dark starting to add the drones on behind this. He doesn't need to kill GuMiho. Honestly, losing those couple extra units early on has made this so much harder. Cyclone gets out, locks on, knocks out. SCVs being targeted. 9 SCVs. The Cyclone itself. Well, how do you recover from this one? 11 SCVs down. GuMiho didn't have a third command center, but he does have 2 command centers done and some mules. With our new fancy little observer overlay there, you can see exactly the income gap. Not incredible at this moment, a few hundred more for Dark, but considering that they're both mining a relatively minimal amount, that definitely adds up. But what did Dark sacrifice in this scenario? He sacrificed a third hatchery. He didn't get as many queens to start out. Is now just adding him on. The Zergling speed pretty far behind. So while he did some damage, GuMiho has a significant amount of time to bounce back. He knows that a follow-up of roaches is very unlikely and likely ineffective, and that anything else, including lair tech, is a long way off. So while Dark did a lot of damage, GuMiho can comfortably continue along his game plan to follow it up. Single Evo chamber here. We're going to see a Carapace. Yep. Carapace upgrade, as right now Dark, I think, keeping all his options open. Doesn't know whether he's going to be more focused on Lings or things like Roaches. The double Cyclone in the medevac. I mean, you work with what you have. The Ghetto Viking, or the fancier one, has 2 Cyclones in a medevac. Can easily pressure any Overlords. Can potentially pick off Queens with the double lock-on. The hatchery itself could be vulnerable. A bit sloppy there, but looking for more. They're not that bad against Queens. Wow, the auto attack is actually pretty good. I've never really seen exactly this scenario, but GuMiho understanding those Cyclones with their high base damage, able to cut through that Queen HP rather quick. Now, this is kind of a, if life gives you lemons, you lock on with those lemons and try to kite Queens to death situation, as few Terrans want to find themselves with these awkward units to kick things off. But GuMiho making the most of it. And in a bit of a dramatic shift, we'll be going for Bio afterwards. Not continuing down the mech path, but instead feeling like Bio is the better option. 2 engineering bays completed. 3rd command center. Dark is only at 56 drones right now. Not sure what kind of tell he had, but starts a Baneling nest. Only has +1 Carapace on the way, whereas GuMiho just kicked off his 1-1 infantry weapons. The Cyclone Micro continues, denying almost every scout. 1 Zergling makes it by. Multiple tanks have completed. A Raven slips by a Spore Crawler. I don't think GuMiho even realized for a moment there. Oh, I barely makes it out. The Queen's busy trying to zone out the Cyclones, but the creep spread getting very dramatic. Creep spread nearly halfway across the map. GuMiho still spending some time building up his infrastructure, but now adding on a reactored starport. That's usually the timer for medevacs, but I fear it might be too late, as Dark has 69 drones, which puts him in a nice position for a solid mid-game economy, including an infestation pit on the way, unlocking access to Hive, +1 melee attack, and Baneling speed, which also gives that +5 Baneling HP. GuMiho has established his 3rd. He's got 4 tanks and counting. Armory on the way. But Dark has gathered, consolidated his economy, and is now, well, wow, double macro hatch in the main. Dark's early game pressure has dictated the last few minutes of what we've seen, but it looks like we're going to end up at a more standard looking scenario with Marine tank medevac up against Lings, Banes with speed, plenty of Queens behind, no other tech right now, just mass larva out of those double macro hedges, looking like a Brood War strategy right now. Oh, the Flex Terran, the Bio-Curious style here, has 2 more factories in production for GuMiho. He can't stay away from those mech units even when he opens up with the Marines. Yeah, the double medevac heading out. Marines jumping the gun just a bit. Auto turrets to pressure over the mineral wall, which the mineral wall is actually the strongest wall in the game, as with 40 minerals apiece, the only thing you can do is mine it. Meanwhile, the double drop. Glad the medevacs are finally here. Tries to target down some Banelings. Confirmed not Maru. Spire on the way. Hive tech, despite everything. Despite all the early pressure and shenanigans and the poking and prodding, Hive is still going to finish before 10 minutes. There's a Spire on the way and a Nidus network. Looking to give GuMiho a little bit of a taste of his own medicine. The Nidus potentially in the back of the main or the pocket base could easily throw GuMiho's to underwhelm or undercut any sort of attack and potentially just shred the production. A very dark move. He's incredibly good at finding the path of least resistance for his units. Instead of going into the wall, he'll just go around it. Very simple. Why don't more people try this, he thinks. Brenda, the Marines doing lots of deeps. Combat shield a little late, but nearly completed. The Nidus is going to be everything here. Nidus worm in the back of the main, the one spot without vision. Of course, he could have chosen most of the pocket base, but even the Cyclones are back. But let's go to the GuMiho action cam. Let's hear the panic. Oh my god. In the main, he's busy setting up his barracks, but there are Zerglings in his main streaming through the Nidus. The count started to get overwhelming now. The double drop. Will GuMiho notice as Dark rolls in? Oh, this is a little awkward. Neither player really paying attention to that. Burrowing the Zerglings all throughout the main. Just something to keep GuMiho busy. Thankfully, most of his upgrades are at the natural. In fact, he's walled off. Ghost Academy on the way. Infestors. Vipers sucking the life out of the multiple hatcheries. Another one of the more awkward scenarios I've ever seen. A sensor tower being built right alongside a Nidus Worm. The Nidus Worm just to keep him busy. Still some of those Broodlings in the main. Dark unburrows, looking for any opportunity. He's at 100 drones. Which, honestly, might be a bit much. 100 drones, 117 Zerglings, as Dark continues streaming across the map. Nidus Worm in the center. This very Brood War mass production-esque Zerg against a part Mech Terran. There's 15 siege tanks and only 28 Marines right now. What are the upgrades on the links? Just +1, +2. In fact, Dark not really focused on upgrades at all. Just sheer unit count. Another Nidus in the main. Burrowed Lings. Nearly impossible to dislodge without infinite scans. Where's the Raven? Coming back to help deal with this. There's still a Ling in the main. Ghost Academy about to complete. A bunch of Zerglings and Banelings heading towards the 4th, but GuMiho still has 100 army supply. Dark finally. Well, he adds on a bunch of spores. I don't think he's really respecting the commitment to siege tanks here. Another Nidus in the main. He unloads. He puts them in the network from the center. You gotta get rid of all of them. One Ling begets more. It's like that one bug you see. There's 100 more waiting for you. And if I just made you very uncomfortable, like and subscribe. Yeah, don't think about it. Just stare at your screen. Don't look away from your phone. Okay? I'm sure there are no more bugs burrowed that you need to worry about. GuMiho, it's totally fine. There totally isn't. His entire army's back in the main. He's making him look like a diamond leader, but the siege push, the Sporist marches forward. The Nidus spews out the rest of the Lings and Banes. The Viper count looking quite hardy. Well, the full Viper energy is a big part of this. Dark is pushing Spore Crawlers into GuMiho's siege line. The tanks are maybe a little much here to deal with right now. +1 mech is all he has. The Brood Lords! I didn't even notice them, and GuMiho is completely unprepared. Dark with the massive macro play, looking to push through a very Wings of Liberty-esque army here. Oh, the Vipers adding to it. They're the Infestors. That 19 tanks, there's almost no anti-air. Dark speed-running Broodlords will push through Lings and Banes, looking to overwhelm. The Marines are in front. There's going to be almost no anti-air left over, sure, but tanks survive. But essentially zero anti-Broodlord options as Dark encompasses and eclipses GuMiho. Yeah, anti-armor missile, but you have to follow that up with, any form of damage. Otherwise, it kind of defeats the whole purpose. The Cyclones coming in the tanks, but tanks don't shoot up. A massive weakness. The Broodlord's going to take full advantage. And GuMiho just... Wow, Dark just sprinted like a bamboo shoot up the tech tree there. He just recovers so quickly. I really... The Nidus is keeping GuMiho. GuMiho felt like he was 5 minutes behind the time. But it was truly just Dark. And how good he is at consolidating his tech and moving up the tree like that. And another impressive game from Dark. Almost everyone is an underdog against him. So not particularly surprised to see it here, but the way he just uses those Nidus Worms. Everybody else, it feels like their whole strategy just revolves around the Nidus Worms. Whereas Dark, he's just working them in. It's just another tool in his toolbox there. He pulls it out like, wow, this is something people just use casually. Once again, very reminiscent of Brood War style. Well, game 2 is on Moondance. And we'll have to see if Dark is able to continue his casual and overwhelming presence as he just walks across GuMiho in game 1. He was playing like a Terran. He was using those Nidus Worms like drops. GuMiho never really got anything going, despite, I think, a capable defense against the early game pressure. It wasn't like it left him in a great position. GuMiho made a lot happen with those Cyclones, but Dark just... Part of the strength of Zerg is that... is the threat that you always impose on your opponent. With players like Dark and Serral, they're always able to threaten an attack that keeps a certain amount of units at home. Terran players, Protoss players, even other Zerg players sometimes feel like they can't move out without getting stabbed in the side. And even if you don't really have that threat, like even if you can't make good on it, you need to threaten it. You need to keep that option open. And that is what kept GuMiho mostly tucked in at home for so long, and allowed Dark to sprint up the tech tree until suddenly Broodlords. Rarely do you get that plot skip where it's like yada yada Broodlords. What? Oh, is this a glitch in the Matrix? Speaking of plot skips, but it's the same build, except GuMiho SCV scouted this time. That's one of my pet peeves, by the way, is the lack of an SCV scout in Terran builds. It feels like you're asking to, like, 1/3 of the time, just be behind. If you don't know the Zerglings are coming, I'm surprised GuMiho... Dark managed to convince the SCV. Well, he knows. He knows there could be more lings. He didn't see the other lings, it looks like, but... GuMiho learned his lesson. Yeah, just send an SCV scout. I truly believe that the minerals you lose for an SCV scout pay for themselves in the 1/3 of the time you do scout something like this. He's able to build a reactor. Sure, the command center gets slightly delayed. The SCV scout got in, but with 2 Marines at a time and the Reaper back at home to help slow this down, well, this is actually... He's lost 2 going on 3 SCVs here, which is... It could be better. He splits... Yeah, 3 SCVs. If he doesn't finish the command center, that's a big issue. You gotta finish the command center. If he loses this extra SCV, he needs to finish the command center. The roaches are coming. This is everything. Oh my god, it's gonna be so close. The SCV slides to the other side. It just needs a fresh coat of paint. Oh no. And this actually will supply block GuMiho. He stopped sending 1 SCV! Oh my god, stop it! GuMiho right here. Typical contractor, 1 SCV. 2 SCVs and the command center's done. But instead, another significant delay. The Cyclone should be enough here to finish this off. But, oh my god. Did we ever need to get this far? I don't know. The Overlord, unfortunately, going to be taken out. Somehow, despite... Okay, maybe this is why we don't SCV scout. Despite GuMiho constantly tried to do a measured response. He's like, I can just minimize damage. I can minimize economic losses. But because he was trying to do exactly as much as he needed to defend it, he kept having 1 unit too little. 1 SCV too little. 1 Marine too little. Or too few. Or too lesser. Or whatever pedantic thing is needed. And now we're in this awkward scenario of him losing, what, 5 SCVs. And maybe another one as it was pulled to repair. SCV, hoping that Cyclone will eventually stand still, which is not something Cyclones usually do. A awkward army here, which hits at this time. Like, you can't really build roaches because... Well, down goes the Overlord. You can't really build roaches because the Cyclones will easily kite them away. But he doesn't have Zergling speed, so GuMiho finding a pretty sick opportunity here. Zergling speed in 5 seconds, but 2 Hellions come up, and that will at the very least cover the retreat. Yeah, Zergling speed done. Oh, wow, that's a lot of Zerglings. The Hellions are able to be protected. The Cyclones are somewhat tanky. 4 Hellions in total, enough to easily kill Zerglings. I don't think he'll... Oh my god. Alright, loses the Cyclone. But 4 Hellions, more than enough. And Dark is now in this awkward scenario where he has to keep making Zerglings. Because it's not just about catching the enemy army. It's about defending yourself. And it might be an opportunity to switch back to some roaches, but 2 Zerglings will get in. Very important. Gets up, sees an upgrading tech lab on a star point, which indicates very likely to be Banshees. And that was already happening before the Zerglings were coming in. So Dark can be pretty convinced this is going to be Banshees. In fact, wow, this is why Dark didn't choose a follow-up last game. This is why GuMiho, able to keep some of his units alive, made such a difference. Look at the drone count right now. 32 drones. He had to make Spore Crawlers because Cloaked Banshees do force those Spore Crawlers. The Cloak is such a threat. The Zergling counter is everything Dark has going for him. He went down this Zergling path, and there's no real easy way to dig yourself out of it. It's such a larva-intensive tech path. And make no mistake, while GuMiho had kind of an awkward response to the early start, the counter pressure, the follow-up attack, has limited Dark's economy and has put him into the most awkward position for Zerg, which is being stuck on hatch tech with a bad economy. You have bad units, you don't have that many queens, and it's not like the queens can walk across the map against Cloaked Banshees. So instead of being able to threaten GuMiho the moment he moves out, Dark is the one under threat. Will he choose some sort of big all-in to try to circumvent the Banshees? Or is he just going to try to roll with the punches? Because GuMiho right now, he's following up. The point of adding on barracks here, and the reason it is so critical, and GuMiho has chosen it, is because it's just so much easier to get Marines. Factories cost gas. Alright, when you're going mech in a more even money game, you usually rely on things like Hellions to keep them busy. But you can capitalize on a good position quickly with Marines and Medevacs. And that is why they're the usual choice, and I think a great choice for GuMiho here. Because those barracks don't cost any of the gas that he's spending on things like upgrades. And he can get that production up and put together a timing before Dark bounces back. Now the Hellion Banshee, going to keep Dark honest. The Hellions themselves closing the distance. Can we credit the SCV scout with this? Not all of it, though I'm sure the SCV union will try to take some credit. And they definitely deserve some, because while it was an awkward start, GuMiho still was able to prepare and set up a follow-up so quickly. And Dark is just in a... I can't tell you. It feels like you're playing with wet socks, or the equivalent here. When you're playing Zerg like this, you got wet socks and you have to use mittens in order to hit your keyboard. Like you're still just playing StarCraft, but just with wet socks and mittens. So, that is what playing low economy hatch tech against Terran feels like. Good luck. You don't have any real micro potential, and also it's just uncomfortable. These Marines, they don't need combat shield to be a massive threat. +1/+1 is now done. Dark managed to make it to 62 drones, but he doesn't have Baneling speed. He has nothing here that's going to be particularly great against what GuMiho's got to bring to the table. The Hellions looking okay. GuMiho should be able to recognize this position. He should see Dark on 3 bases. And remember that back pocket base doesn't have as many minerals or gas. It's about a 3/4 base. Just something to help you along and stay safe. Without more here, Dark is at... He's already got a macro hedge. I do love the macro hedges. He knows what he's about. Dark adds on 11 more drones, essentially saying, I hope GuMiho's micro is not good enough to kill me. He had to make a hard choice, which is try to fight this army on even economy. Gets enough Ravagers, knocks down a tank, but that's a lot of Marines. The Banelings don't have speed. GuMiho eats a hit, but he targets down 2 more. The Hellbats are making their way up. And without Baneling speed, there's just no way. It doesn't matter if GuMiho A moves or not. As the Hellbats with the damage and the tankiness, the Baneling count is just not nearly high enough. And GuMiho is able, with a quick mulligan there in game 2, he's able to take it. Yeah, like, Dark just did the same build. And GuMiho SCV scouted. So, I can't blame Dark for trying to knock this out and get it over with, but... yeah. Well, credit to GuMiho. He figured it out, he adapted, and he overcame. Game 3 will be on everyone's favorite map, Data C. Settle in. Data C, well known at this stage for being the macro map, where we have the more long-winded games, to say the very least. GuMiho, I mean, he's an incredibly capable player. He hasn't really been allowed. That might be Dark's intent. He hasn't really been allowed to show that what he's wanted to do, because Dark has taken the initiative and forces the response. That is the benefit of going for that pull first into Roach, is you are now in control of the game, though it does cost you to do so. It costs you in that drone count, costs you in tech, so you gotta find the damage somewhere. This game, though, Hatch first, barracks into Refinery. GuMiho, is he gonna SCV? Don't, come on, send it out. As long as you send it out by the time the Reaper's coming out, which is around 2 minutes, you do get the info on whether or not shenanigans are coming your way, or at least some version of them. He's not... oh my god. It's like one game. He won't try it again. You're right this time, but still. I don't know. It feels like a unnecessary risk. Reaper finishing up. Alright, Dark. What do you have in store for us? Only 1 in gas. He's going for the quick third. Reaper heading across, but Dark, well, it's going to be close. GuMiho is not sending the Reaper directly towards the minerals. Aren't quite there yet. And he didn't actually check the third, so Dark will be able to slap down the hatchery in time. Drones under fire. Grenade bounces around. Will he get the drone? Oh my god. Just GG now, Dark. He got the drone. Oh, that's a shame for 7 generations move right there. You're not allowed to get a drone as a Reaper. Okay, that's... we all know what you do is you micro back and forth and maybe damage 2 or 3 lings, and then throw a grenade at a queen for no discernible reason that doesn't really accomplish anything and doesn't allow you to kill the creep tumor, because of course not. You just throw the grenade out in spite, and then you leave. And that's what you do, and that's how you micro a Reaper. 3rd command center for GuMiho, and it looks like we're sticking to the script for this one. Hellions, starport on the way. Full greed plays from both sides. Will there be a tech lab in order to... Some players will make the Banshee to start. Others prefer a Viking, and even others get spicy with a medevac. The options are quite wide. I mean, of course, you always got the battle cruiser in your pocket there. Very large pocket, but the battle cruiser always on the table. I'm glad I mentioned it. Fusion Core! As GuMiho decides, maybe this is what he wanted all 3 games, but the battle cruiser is in the works. The big battle cruiser builds. GuMiho, that's one of his staples. The most consistent cruiser user. And maybe, once again, what Dark was trying to avoid. The battlecruiser, the flying laser bathtub. Just such a strong... And, it's such a strong option, the entire game revolves around it. There's not much the Queens can do except spew some knitting needles at it and hope it doesn't do too much damage. At the same time, the thing costs more than a command center. So, I guess a flying command center that also shoots and teleports is... Yeah, that doesn't come cheap. Viking hits the deck. Decides, you know what? Alright. No thank you. A single queen. I don't know what you expected. Maybe just... Trying to convince Dark. No. This is totally normal macro. It's totally not a bet. Though that gas was scouted. 2 more factories on the way for GuMiho. Battlecruiser nearly halfway done. And in fact, it doesn't get worse if you build a 3rd command center. It gets better. If you get away with the battlecruiser, that means all the time you have so much map control. Assuming, of course, the Zerg doesn't try to do some sort of all-in. But if you survive it, the battlecruiser is one of the best options for punishing a relatively low economy player as well. It has no bad sides besides how long it takes to invest in it. The jump to them. Oh my god, he didn't build a spore. Hook, line, and sinker. He bit the bait there. The Viking and the 3rd CC convincing Dark. He didn't need the defender. Who was supposed to build the spore? That's the drone's job, Susan. It's the drones. They should have done it. That was their responsibility. And now they're paying for it. A dozen drones. 22! Oh my god! Dark's economy has been immolated. It's been combusted. It's been charred and broiled. Char-broiled, if you would. This is an absolute, utter, overwhelming, well-done disaster for Dark. And just like that, the wombo combo of the battlecruiser from the frying pan into the fires. This is... Well, here come the Hellbats. The battlecruiser jumps behind. Yamato is not done. I don't think it needs to be. The Hellbats are tanky enough. The target fire, if you would. Still a battlecruiser in the main and GuMiho. Oh yeah, the Viking. By the way, I'm also here, guys. Slowly chewing through the hatchery with the Hellbats. GuMiho, in the most decisive game, he gets the battlecruiser off. There just isn't any direct option against the battlecruisers at this stage. There is a lair, but without a spire. GuMiho getting a 4th and a 5th command. In fact, his 4th command center's already done. Wow, this is an absolute disaster for Dark. Does he even have a Roach Warren? He doesn't. He has Lings and Banes against battlecruiser, Hellion, the Hell Clones. Oh my. Well, This is not ideal. Dark right now, he's getting all the options to claw himself out of this position. But he still has a very long road. He gets 3 kills with Banelings and Lings. Battlecruiser dealing with some of this. The Hell Clones against Queens. The Queens don't really match this. The armor is too much. Maybe one Cyclone gets caught. The Banelings looking for anything to hit. The Hellbats manage to split, waddling across. The Penguin Bats. Ugh. Blue Flame on the way. Dark up to 68 drones, which still pales in comparison. Though the mineral income actually a little rough here. GuMiho mining a whole lot of gas as Mech demands it. The battlecruisers have joined the fray. The Yamato volleys. One shot. One very, very dead queen. The battlecruisers with the Hellbats underneath. There's just no units left. Dark taps it out, and GuMiho with a decisive 2-1. Beautifully done. GuMiho. A strong victory there. Adapts in game 2. And tactical jumps by with a victory in game 3. That was some of the most decisive battlecruiser openers. They're still in style. They never went out. Not something you pull out every game. And honestly, is that why Dark went for the early all-ins? I don't know. I hope you enjoyed, though. Make sure to like, subscribe. Check out this video. Jimmy put the video up. My second channel. Streams on Fridays on YouTube. Yes. We can stream on YouTube some days now, so hopefully you stop by and check it out. Thank you for watching. Good luck. Have fun. Have an amazing day. I'll see you next time. I hope I made your day a little bit better. Stay chill.